There's a moment most men never notice. Not when she leaves, not when she stops replying, but earlier, much earlier. It's the moment a woman is still there, still talking, still smiling, still saying it's fine, yet something inside her has already begun to pull away. And if you don't understand what happens in her emotional world at that point, you don't lose her suddenly. You lose her slowly, quietly. And by the time you feel it, it's already over. In a moment, you'll understand why women rarely leave when they're angry, and why they leave when they feel emotionally unseen. Most men believe women pull back because of one big mistake. A wrong text, a bad date, an argument, but female psychology doesn't work like that. Women don't disconnect because of a single event. They disconnect because of a pattern, one that slowly changes how safe, how desired, and how emotionally held they feel around you. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When a woman starts pulling back, she usually gave you signals long before. Not loud ones, not dramatic ones, subtle emotional shifts that only a grounded, emotionally present man can sense. You might be thinking, she never told me anything was wrong. That's exactly the point. Women don't announce emotional withdrawal, they feel it first. And then they behave differently. Let's start with the first signal almost every man misses. At the beginning, when a woman feels emotionally connected to you, she leans into her feelings. She shares freely, she reacts emotionally. She cares how you respond, but before she pulls away, she does something unexpected. She becomes calmer, quieter, more agreeable. Men misread this as peace, but psychologically it's resignation. When a woman stops expressing emotional friction, it's often because she no longer believes it will change anything. She's not avoiding conflict, she's avoiding disappointment. And this is where male intuition often fails. You might think, we're arguing less, things must be improving. But inside her, a decision is forming. She's starting to emotionally self-regulate without you. That's the first withdrawal, internal, invisible, dangerous, because attraction isn't just about desire. It's about emotional participation. When a woman feels that her emotional reactions don't land, that her concerns are minimized, explained away, or brushed aside, she doesn't get louder. She gets quieter, she stops asking for reassurance. She stops explaining how she feels. She stops trying to be understood, and the moment she stops trying, she starts detaching. In a moment, I'll explain why women don't pull back when they feel hurt, they pull back when they feel alone. But first, you need to understand something crucial about female emotional psychology. Women bond through emotional responsiveness, not constant attention, not texting frequency, but presence. Presence means when she reveals something vulnerable, even subtly, you meet it without defensiveness, without fixing, without dismissing. When that doesn't happen consistently, her nervous system adapts. She stops reaching. You'll notice it in small ways. Her messages become shorter, not cold, just efficient. She stops sending emotional details about her day. She no longer circles back to unresolved conversations. She's not testing you, she's protecting herself. And here's the part that confuses men the most. She might still be kind, still affectionate, still intimate, but emotionally she's already stepping back, because women can stay physically close while emotionally preparing to leave. Men usually do the opposite. This is why the breakup feels sudden to you but deeply processed for her. She's already grieved the version of you she hoped would show up. And now comes a signal that almost no man understands. Her tone changes, not dramatically, not disrespectfully. It becomes neutral, less warmth, less curiosity about you, less emotional fluctuation. She laughs but not deeply. She listens but not intently. She agrees but without energy. That emotional neutrality is not comfort, it's emotional disengagement. Psychologically, when attraction is alive, emotions fluctuate: excitement, frustration, desire, longing. Flatness means the emotional investment is draining away. And here's the painful irony. This is often when men finally relax. She's not upset anymore. She's not complaining. Things feel easier. But attraction isn't built in ease. It's built in emotional aliveness. And when she stops bringing emotional intensity to the connection, even negative intensity, it's because she's already started redirecting that energy inward. In a moment, you'll understand why women stop asking questions before they pull back, and why that silence is louder than any argument. But before that, you need to hear this clearly. A woman doesn't pull away because you weren't perfect. She pulls away because she didn't feel felt. And that feeling doesn't disappear overnight. It fades quietly while you're still standing right next to her. There's a shift that happens before a woman emotionally pulls back that feels almost invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. She stops being curious about you. Not in an obvious way. She still listens. She still responds. But the energy behind her questions changes. Early on, when a woman feels emotionally invested, her curiosity is alive. She wants to know how you think, what you feel, what excites you, what worries you. Her questions aren't polite, they're personal. They come from emotional interest. But when a woman begins pulling back, curiosity turns into courtesy. She asks, "How was your day?" But she doesn't lean in when you answer. She says, "That's interesting," but she doesn't explore further. This is one of the most misunderstood emotional signals men experience. You might think she's just relaxed, or busy, or comfortable. But psychologically, curiosity is the fuel of attraction. When curiosity fades, emotional momentum dies. And here's the deeper reason why this happens. Women emotionally invest when they feel invited into a man's inner world, not through oversharing but through openness, through emotional availability without neediness, through grounded presence. When a woman feels like she's emotionally reaching and not being met, she stops reaching. And curiosity is the first thing to go. She no longer wonders how you feel about her, because she's already decided to stop needing to know. That decision doesn't come from anger, it comes from emotional fatigue. And fatigue is dangerous because it feels calm right before disconnection. Now let's talk about a signal that hits even closer. She stops reacting emotionally to your absence. Early on, when attraction is alive, your absence creates tension. She notices when you pull back, she feels it, she reacts even subtly. But when a woman begins emotionally withdrawing, your absence doesn't disturb her nervous system anymore. You take longer to reply, she doesn't mention it, you cancel plans, she says no worries. You pull back emotionally. She adapts instantly. Men often misread this as strength or independence, but what's really happening is emotional detachment. When a woman stops reacting to your absence, it means she's already started building emotional distance inside herself. She's no longer orienting her emotional world around you. And this is critical to understand. Attraction thrives on emotional tension, not drama, not games, but emotional responsiveness. The feeling that your presence matters. When your presence stops creating emotional movement, when your absence feels irrelevant, that's not security. That's disengagement. And here's where men unknowingly accelerate the pullback. They try to re-engage through logic. They explain more, they reassure more, they ask, is everything okay? But emotional withdrawal isn't solved by conversation alone. It's resolved by felt presence. When a woman pulls back emotionally, it's often because she stopped feeling emotionally met, not because she stopped caring. But if she continues not to feel met, caring slowly transforms into acceptance. Acceptance that this connection will never become what she hoped. And that's when another signal appears. She stops sharing her inner emotional world, not the surface stuff that continues, but the vulnerable layer disappears. She no longer talks about what scares her, what confuses her, what hurts her. She keeps it light, safe, contained. Men often say she became more chill. But emotionally, she became guarded. And here's the part that matters most. Women don't guard their emotions when they feel safe. They guard them when they feel unseen. If you notice, she no longer brings emotional depth into conversations, no reflection, no vulnerability, no emotional nuance. She's already started the process of emotional self-withdrawal. She's no longer building intimacy. She's maintaining distance. And then comes the most dangerous signal of all. She stops emotionally correcting the relationship. When a woman is emotionally invested, she tries to repair. She brings up issues. She expresses needs. She wants alignment. When she pulls back, she stops correcting. She lets things slide. She lowers expectations. She tells herself it's fine. But fine is not peace. It's permission to detach. Psychologically, the moment a woman stops trying to influence the emotional direction of the connection, she's already preparing for life without it. And here's the part most men never realize until it's too late. The emotional pullback doesn't feel dramatic. It feels quiet, stable, predictable, but inside her something irreversible is forming, a reallocation of emotional energy. There's a quiet decision a woman makes long before she ever leaves. It's not, I'm done. It's not, I don't care anymore. It's softer than that. It's, I need to stop hoping. And once hope disappears, attraction doesn't fight to survive, it dissolves. This is why women emotionally leave before they physically leave. Hope is an emotional investment. And when a woman senses over time that her emotional needs are not truly landing, her nervous system begins to detach as a form of self-protection. Not punishment, not manipulation, protection. Here's how that decision shows up emotionally. She stops needing reassurance. Early on, reassurance matters to her not because she's insecure, but because she's emotionally engaged. She wants to feel chosen, seen, desired, but before she pulls back, something shifts. She no longer asks where she stands with you. She no longer seeks clarity about your feelings. She no longer checks for emotional alignment. Men often misinterpret this as confidence or maturity. But psychologically, reassurance seeking doesn't disappear because she suddenly feels secure. It disappears because she's no longer emotionally depending on the connection. She's already started meeting those emotional needs internally, or imagining a future where she won't need you to meet them at all. And that's a dangerous phase, because when a woman stops needing reassurance from you, she's also stopped imagining a future that requires your presence. Now let's talk about something even more subtle. Her emotional reactions become delayed. You say something insensitive. She doesn't react immediately. You disappoint her. She shrugs it off. You fail to show up emotionally. She processes it privately. This isn't emotional maturity. It's emotional distancing. Emotionally connected women respond in real time. They feel with you. Detached women respond after the feeling has already passed because they didn't include you in it. She's no longer emotionally co-regulating with you. She's regulating alone. And here's the psychological reason this happens. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she allows herself to be affected by you. Your words land, your presence matters, your absence creates tension. But when she begins pulling back, she reduces how much influence you have over her emotional state. That reduction feels calm, controlled, even graceful, but it's also a quiet goodbye. Now pay close attention to this next signal because it's one of the clearest indicators of emotional withdrawal. She stops imagining us. Not verbally, internally. She stops referencing the future casually. She no longer includes you in hypothetical moments. Not big plans, those disappear later. I'm talking about small things. Next time you'd love this place. We should try that. When those disappear, it means she's unconsciously stopped extending the emotional timeline. An attraction cannot survive without a future orientation. When a woman desires a man, she instinctively imagines experiences with him. Shared moments, shared energy. When she pulls back, those images fade. She's no longer rehearsing a future with you in her mind. And that's when men usually make their biggest mistake. They sense distance and try to close it forcefully. More texting, more talking, more explaining, more emotional pressure. But emotional withdrawal doesn't respond to force. It responds to presence. And presence isn't about doing more. It's about being emotionally available without chasing, grounded without withdrawing, open without pleading, stable without numbing. When men panic, women retreat further, not because the man is weak, but because emotional pressure confirms her fear that the connection can't hold calm, grounded masculinity under emotional strain. And here's the hardest truth. By the time a woman emotionally pulls back, she's not asking to be convinced. She's watching to see who you become in the absence of reassurance. Do you stay centered? Do you remain emotionally available without demanding? Do you respect her space without disappearing? Or do you collapse into over-explanation and emotional chasing? In a moment, you'll understand the final emotional signals women show right before detachment becomes irreversible, and why a man's response during this phase determines whether attraction stabilizes or dies completely. There is a phase where attraction is no longer growing, but it's not gone yet. This is the most fragile moment in the entire emotional arc between a man and a woman, because what she's feeling now isn't disinterest. It's uncertainty about safety, not physical safety, emotional safety. And emotional safety for a woman means this: can I be myself here without shrinking or fighting or explaining? When she begins pulling back, she's unconsciously asking that question again. And the way she asks it is subtle. She starts testing emotional consistency. Not through games, through observation. She watches how you respond when she's quieter, when she's slower to reply, when she's less expressive. Do you stay grounded? Or do you start chasing clarity? This is where many men unknowingly fail, not because they lack confidence, but because they misunderstand what's being evaluated. She's not testing your interest. She's testing your emotional self-regulation. When a woman senses that her emotional distance causes you to destabilize, to explain more, seek reassurance, or push for answers, it confirms her fear that the emotional weight of the relationship is being carried by her. And when that happens, attraction collapses, because desire requires polarity, and polarity requires emotional steadiness. Now here's a signal almost no one talks about. She starts responding instead of initiating. She still replies, she still engages, but she stops being the emotional initiator. She no longer brings topics. She no longer steers the emotional direction. Men often misinterpret this as comfort. She knows I'll reach out. But psychologically, initiation is emotional investment. When a woman stops initiating, she's conserving emotional energy. She's no longer building, she's maintaining, and maintenance mode is the last stop before detachment. Now notice this next shift. Her empathy for your struggles decreases, not because she's cold, but because she's emotionally reallocating. When she's invested, she feels with you. Your stress affects her. Your wins excite her. When she pulls back, your emotional world stops entering hers. She listens politely. She responds kindly, but the emotional resonance is gone. And this is devastating for men because it feels subtle. Nothing is wrong enough to confront, but everything feels distant. And this distance creates anxiety in men who are otherwise confident, because emotional distance triggers the fear of loss. And fear of loss often leads to overcorrection, trying harder, explaining deeper, proving value. But attraction doesn't respond to proof. It responds to presence. A woman doesn't pull back because she doubts your worth. She pulls back because she doubts the emotional experience of being with you. An emotional experience is shaped by how you show up when the connection isn't smooth. Here's another signal that's painful to recognize. She stops missing you, not consciously, but emotionally. Your absence no longer creates longing, it creates neutrality. She fills the space with other things: friends, work, her own inner world. And here's the key psychological insight. Longing only exists when emotional connection is alive. When longing disappears, it's because emotional reliance has been replaced by emotional independence. Independence is healthy, but when it emerges as a response to emotional disappointment, it signals withdrawal. Now let's talk about the moment where everything becomes clear if you're paying attention. She becomes more understanding. She rationalizes your behavior. She excuses patterns that once hurt her. Men think this is acceptance, but psychologically this is disengagement. She's no longer fighting for change, she's adjusting expectations downward. And once expectations drop, attraction follows, because desire grows toward what we believe can meet us emotionally. When belief fades, desire fades, and once it happens, attraction doesn't argue. It doesn't negotiate, it lets go. This is the moment she emotionally accepts that you are no longer her emotional home. Not because you were bad, not because you failed, but because something essential stopped flowing between you. She stops emotionally waiting for you. Waiting is an act of hope. Waiting says, he'll show up, he'll understand, he'll meet me here. When a woman stops waiting, she stops investing. And this is the most painful truth for men to hear. A woman doesn't leave when she's angry. She leaves when she becomes emotionally complete without you. At this stage, she's calm, not cold, not cruel, calm. She's already accepted the loss internally. This is why her final goodbye feels so composed, why she says things like, you didn't do anything wrong, I just don't feel it anymore. I need to focus on myself. She's telling the truth because what she lost wasn't attraction first. She lost emotional resonance. And once resonance is gone, desire can't breathe. Now here's the part that separates emotionally grounded men from everyone else. Men who panic at this stage try to resurrect attraction with words, explanations, promises, intensity, but attraction doesn't return through urgency. It returns, if it ever does, through emotional steadiness. Through a man who can remain present without pleading, open without collapsing, respectful without disappearing. A man who doesn't chase her emotions, but doesn't abandon his own either. And here's the deeper lesson, the one most men only learn after heartbreak. Women don't pull back because men lack value. They pull back when they no longer feel value in the emotional experience. An emotional experience is shaped in quiet moments. How you listen when she's vulnerable, how you respond when she's distant, how you hold yourself when the connection feels uncertain. This is why confidence isn't loud, masculinity isn't forceful, and attraction isn't controlled, it's felt. If you've watched this far, it means you're not trying to manipulate outcomes, you're trying to understand, and that already puts you ahead of most men. Because emotionally intelligent men don't fear women pulling back. They learn to recognize the signals early and they respond with presence, not pressure. They don't chase clarity, they become clarity. They don't beg for connection, they embody emotional safety. And women feel that, not in words, in their nervous system. So if this video felt uncomfortably accurate, if parts of it felt like they were speaking directly to your past or your present, that's not coincidence. It means you're becoming aware. And awareness is where attraction, real attraction, actually begins. This channel exists for men who want depth over tactics, clarity over confusion, self-respect over chasing. If that's the man you're becoming, you already know what to do next. Not out of impulse, out of alignment. Sit with what you felt here. Let it change how you show up. And when you're ready to go deeper into the psychology of attraction, emotional intelligence, and grounded masculine presence, you're already in the right place.